Hello. Well, the break is still here, and I notice where I'm standing needs to change. Look at the flag behind me. We are now going to shift. Oh, we're going to shift that way. Much better. We'll put my head down. We need to move it. We need to move it so that we actually do stand kind of in the middle. There we go. We'll get the Canadian flag out of there. It's officially Olympic time. But for now, until I finish this and change my icon to get the USA icon that we're going to put back up, we're getting gold this time. We're watching the game at Giordano's on Sunday next week. But first, we should talk about the Golden Knights. We should talk about this game. We should talk about the beeping of the forklift behind me. We should talk about all the people yelling in this arena. It's been wild today. I don't know what happened. The game ended and everyone's just yelling. It's wacky. And I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about all the people that are changing this arena. They all want to get out of here too. I don't. I want to talk about the Golden Knights tonight because I think these two games are huge. I am not a big these are huge games in regular season guy. I'm really not. I think most of you have probably followed me long enough to know that that's not typically how I view it. However, in this position, having lost the 5 games in a row, having a back-to-back, obviously stubbing your toe against Vancouver would have been a disaster. But this is a team that kind of needs the points as well. They just made the big trade. Obviously, fortunate for the Golden Knights that Panarin did not play today. Might have been a little bit different game. Might have been a little bit of a boost for them. I don't know. But the 4 points that they get right here kind of put a little bit of that cushion back in that had disappeared for a few days there. It wasn't a lot, and namely because the Pacific Division is such a steaming pile of dog shit that it's nice that none of these teams have even come close to walking through the door and taking the opening that the Golden Knights have given. Nonetheless, to be able to be in a position that they put themselves in yesterday and today, get 2 fairly easy wins, not terribly over the top in regards to how much you have to actually work for them, feel like you're just flat out the better team both nights. That's a good way to go into not playing now for 3 weeks effectively and over a month. The next time they play here at T-Mobile Arena is March 6th. Look at your phone, look at your TV, whatever. Look at whatever gives the nearest thing that shows you the calendar. It's February 5th. They don't play again until March 6th in this building. So it's a long, long time, and it's going to be nice to have these 2 games back-to-back on the record, in the standings, in the memory bank. It's obviously fairly large for Hill. Like I said in the 3 takeaways, it's a little disappointing that this is the game that now he doesn't get to play for an extended period of time, right? Like, no practices until February 16th or 17th or whatever it is. It's a while. So he basically has to be off the ice or at least not around the main group for a long time. The next time he's in the net's going to be quite a while. It's kind of disappointing that this is when that kind of comes out. He was good today. Like, again, you have to take everything with a grain of salt in the middle of a regular season, on the second of a back-to-back for the Kings, on the second of the back-to-back for Vegas, on the like all of this, right? Oh, you're right. Sorry, I did forget to change the thing. You're right. Well, hang on. Let me change the thing. I messed it up. I made a new one, and then I forget to change it because we're not OTL merchants today. Apologies. Hang on. We'll make the new one. It's loading. It's thinking. There. That's better. Sorry. Thanks for pointing that out. Chris, I screwed it up. All right? All right? I messed it up. It's an error. That's an error. Don't yell at me. I'm yelling at myself. Yeah, like, he played real well. Looked the most comfortable we've seen him in there. Helps a lot when they score 4 goals in the first 6 shots. A lot easier when it's that's the situation. It's 4-0. You kind of can settle in. He saw 2 or 3 shots. They had one dangerous one before that he stopped. I think it was good glove save. Like, that helps. It's certainly beneficial. But again, like, we'll see as we go forward, and I'll get into some of that. The game itself, like, they were real good for 5 minutes there. We've seen a couple games that have slipped away in 5 minutes, and then they fought to get back into them today. It's nice that you have the good 5 minutes, and they basically went on break pretty quickly after. Shout out to Jim Hiller, terrible head coach, who also helped the Golden Knights win this game a lot easier by not pulling the goalie at the end of the second period when they had a power play, not pulling the goalie with 13 minutes when they had the power play in the third period, not pulling the goalie on icings at 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 4 minutes, and 3 minutes before the penalty, and then not even doing it at all in the last minute. Hilarious to just punt when you're right there and need these points. It's unbelievable to me. Probably should be fired on that alone. If not, look at the rest of the resume. That guy's terrible. Probably should be fired. But we don't cover the Kings, so we don't really care. They're making trades to try to make the playoffs, and they still have that coach back there. Hilarious. Either way, the overall game, like, I think the main takeaway from the last two games is Barbashev, Eichel, and Stone together are better than the Pacific Division, or at least the middle to bottom of the Pacific Division. That's the main takeaway I'm grabbing from it. I didn't think that they were particularly awesome defensively today. It was fine. Hill had a pretty good game, better than we've seen, but it wasn't great defensively. But that's all right. You've got the lead. You're in a good spot. They never trailed in either game. They never trailed in either game, so that's good. That's something that's a kind of a difference, a change in direction from what we've been seeing in the past. So that's certainly a benefit. You score 4 real quick, and then you kind of just sit on it the rest of the game, which is perfectly fine. Like, I have no issue with that. But that being said, that's why I don't want to go too deeply on, like, let's look at the bigger picture of what happened in last game and this game, because it really isn't going to make a difference, right? It's going to disappear by the time we see them play again. And even if it does pick up, it's not going to be because of these two games. It's going to be given to the break, and then we're going to have to see what comes from there. Couple notes that I want to make before I get going on some of the questions. I asked for questions, the bigger picture stuff. If you want to go ahead and put questions in here, go ahead and do that. One thing is the schedule. So the schedule to this point, I'm going to write an article over the break about this. The schedule to this point has been condensed, but not to the level that what it's about to be. They're about to play 25 games in 50 days with a ton of travel and a bunch of back-to-backs and trips east. It's going to get really tight. If you feel like it's been tight to this point, if you feel like you've heard people complaining and bitching and moaning about how tight it has been, it actually so far, 57 games we are now, 56 or 57, I can't remember. That's how far we are in so far. This is actually the either third or fourth most congested segment of games that the Golden Knights have played, either in a first half of a season, I'm putting that in quotes, or a second half of the season. It's been, are they playing? They're playing Angels and Airwaves in here. They must know that I'm in here. This is fantastic. Crank it up. I usually hate when they play music behind me, but they've got the adventure on, so this is fantastic. Sorry. Either way, this has not been as congested as what a lot of people are making it out. I've seen some tweets saying it's ridiculous to make the players play this much. They've played more in other segments of times in the last 9 years. So I don't want to hear about that. Now, the other half, that's really congested. How the Golden Knights are going to get through all that, we will worry about that as we go forward. The only other real thing is, like, looking at the standings now, I think it's going to take a ton of pressure off this team and what they feel like what's going to happen coming out of the break, because they got these 2 wins and because Edmonton lost a couple. Kings, obviously helpful today, but they get the loss. Seattle lost to Anaheim. Anaheim lost another game, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's been kind of a mess. Nobody's taken that step forward. And now you look at the standings, and they're in a much, much better place than they were. So now let's go to some questions that I took on Twitter and on the Discord. But first, I'll tell you that this Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. The Jimmerson Law Firm sponsors all of my Periscopes. They are Las Vegas's preeminent. I can't read this. They are one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms, specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation when winning matters. Seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. Jimmerson Law Firm's been with us for many years, dating back, I think it was year 2 or 3, they jumped on board. So if you need a lawyer, definitely check out the Jimmerson Law Firm. They are fantastic. You will not regret that. All right, let's start it. Which of the injured players will make the biggest impact when they come back, in your opinion, and how does each fit into the team post-injury/break? So we'll start with kind of just a run-through of what we're expecting, because Cassidy gave somewhat of an update. I have a bit more information beyond that. McNabb is expected to play the very first game out of the break. So that's the only one that's really, or like a for sure guarantee. There's a high probability that both Saad and Sissons are their first game out of the break. So they're getting back 3 players. That's going to push, and I know people are going to want to know about this, so all right, let me just do the forwards, then I'll talk about the defense. That's almost certainly going to push, Uchez out of the lineup, and that would also probably push, I guess Reinhardt would be the one that would probably go. I guess it's possible that it's Holtz. Depends on what it looks like. We will see. On defense, I would be shocked if it's not Hutton. I know people have said maybe it'll be Lazan, maybe it'll be Korzak. I know Korzak's had a little bit of a tough go the last bit here. It's going to be Hutton, and I'll tell you why it's going to be Hutton. The Golden Knights have 3 right-handed, again, in quotes. They actually have 2 right-handed defensemen. They have 3 that play on the right side. Those are Theodore, Anderson. Theodore's lefty. He plays on the right side. Anderson is right-handed. He plays on the right side. Korzak is right-handed. He plays on the right side. They're unlikely to force another lefty to go over to the right if they have a healthy Korzak and they're healthy scratching him. Beyond that, the other piece of that, they're not going to want to take Lazan out because of the fact that he offers a level of physicality that they would not have if he's not in there. That's why he's on the team in the first place. Whether you or I agree with that, I don't really. I don't know where you stand. I don't particularly think it's all that big a deal, especially in the position that he plays. Either way, they want it. He's going to be in the lineup. Hutton also offensive-minded. You've got Theodore, you've got Hannafin, you've got Anderson. They're probably looking to get more back to defensive-minded players. McNabb goes in, Hutton comes out. That's going to be a pretty big upgrade defensively. Now, I don't know that the impact that was actually – let me keep going. Other injuries. Brett Howden's injury is supposedly pretty bad. I don't know exactly how bad, but bad enough that they're not expected to be ready out of the break. He is not expected to be ready even by March from the last I heard, and I know that that's not all that different from the break. I think it would be optimistic for him to be back in the lineup pre-deadline. I have not heard that completely ruled out, though, so I won't go too far beyond that one. Carlson, I continue to be hearing the same things that I have been hearing most of the time. He's not been ruled out for the season, which has surprised me a bit, to be completely honest. I would think that they would. It wouldn't shock me if we get to deadline time and he is ruled out for the season so that they could get the extra LTIR. That being said, I have also been kind of told a little bit that there is a possibility that the playoffs are in play for him. I think the regular season is unlikely. I don't think it's completely out of the picture because I don't know that they know exactly what the recovery timeline is going to be. It could be faster than expected. It also could be slower than expected. They should have a better idea coming out of the break. He's not going to play out of the break. He's almost certainly not going to play before the deadline on March 6th or whatever it is, 11th. I don't remember what the date is. It's almost certainly not going to play before then. I would be surprised if he plays before April. I would be kind of surprised if he plays before May. So we will see on that one. Hart, there was not really a good update. He was basically said, we don't know until he gets back on the ice, which is kind of a weird way of saying the most obvious thing in the world. Like, he's not going to play until he skates. No shit, right? Like, that's kind of how I read that. It's basically a non-update. I don't have any further information on him. I don't know what is going to happen. I don't know what it would look like if that happens. Now, who's going to make the biggest impact? I think without question, the biggest impact should be McNabb. Now, Carlson coming back could potentially make a bigger impact, but I don't think that's going to happen. Roenbier, I don't know anything beyond. I do not expect him to play at the Olympics. That has not been officially confirmed as far as I know, but I would be very surprised if he's able to play at the Olympics. So that's ridiculously disappointing. That just sucks because that would have been fun to get to see him play. It's disappointing that appears like it's not going to happen. Maybe there's a miraculous turnaround. I don't know. He may end up going. I don't know how that's going to work. He was named early, so maybe he's on like the leadership group. I don't know that Jonas is necessarily that type of person, if for those of you who know Jonas, but maybe he goes anyway. I hope he does get to go. Carlson, I think, would make the biggest impact of anybody, but I don't expect it to happen anytime soon, so we're not even going to look into that one too much. The next biggest impact is obviously going to be McNabb, but I've said this before. I'll say it again. I don't believe the impact's going to be massive because of how Lausanne's played in the role up with Theodore. I think they've been pretty good. Not great, not phenomenal, but pretty good to a level. I don't think it was that much different than Theodore and McNabb. I think there's a different element. There's a different comfortability with those two guys together that I think you get a little bit quicker play, but I don't think it's majorly different. And then as Lazan goes down and plays with Korzak, I expect that to still have troubles. And actually, I think Hutton's offense has been somewhat impactful, and I think you lose that. So you actually lose a little bit of that. I don't think it's going to impact the middle. I think it's going to lead to about the same, if not slightly more, offensive zone draws to Hannafin and Anderson. That's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I think it's an impact. I think it's a positive impact. I don't think it's massive. So in that respect, I don't think it's big. Howden, if and when that happens, that one could have a little bit bigger of an impact. I think that could be. I don't think they're going to do McNabb and Korzak. I also think that just flat out, I don't see that as being all that much of a change either. I think he would be better than Lazan, but than Hutton is in that spot. I just don't think that they're going to end up, I guess I'll put it this way. If we end up in a situation where there's a big game or a close game and we get to the game ends and they pull the stat sheet and they look up and Jeremy Lazan has played 21 minutes and Braden McNabb has played 17, they're going to quickly realize, well, we don't like that. We're not going to continue doing that. I don't think it will last. Maybe they do it the first game out of the break. I don't even expect that to happen. I think the moment McNabb's back, he goes back with Theodore, and that's how it stays as long as both guys are healthy. Howden, like I said, I think would make an impact. He offers a little bit more of a straight line. He has done pretty well playing in different situations up the lineup with better players. I think he offers an interesting option to play center along with Marner. So I think there's a lot of different options there that he's kind of more of Swiss Army knife, which is nice to have, and not having him, I think you're seeing some of the knock-on effect, and we've seen it over the past 5 games before these last 2, where they just couldn't seem to get any consistency with the lines. I think he can offer that. Can offer you a little bit more of the ability to roll lines and keep pressure on teams. I think he does offer that in a way that I don't think you're getting out of some of the other guys that have been filling in. Holtz, Ronbier, Lazinski, Bowman's been good, but I don't necessarily view him as a fill-in anymore. Reinhardt's been better. His hand's real good in the last game, had a chance today. So I think he could offer some benefit. I don't think it's massive. So I don't look at all of the injured players and say, well, if they all suddenly get healthy, which again isn't happening, but if they all suddenly get healthy, I don't think it's going to make the impact that you think. It's going to come down to, can the best players continue to push the games forward? Today and yesterday, that's what happened. The best players had big games, and the Golden Knights go on to win the game. So that is what was nice to see. I was asked, what are your thoughts on Uchaz? It's early. It's hard to say in these 2 games because they weren't terribly competitive games in either case. I didn't think he stood out all that much outside of a bit of physicality. I personally am not huge on judging a guy based on physicality. It doesn't really add much for me, just that alone. Now, if you're going up and separating a guy from the puck and hitting him and taking it, and that turns into aggressive forecheck, I think there's more there. I haven't seen that to a level that I think is repetitive and something that we'll see a lot of. I'm certainly not casting him off and saying this is not a guy that can play in the NHL or anything like that. He obviously was not given the offensive opportunity that Bowman was, and I don't think he would have succeeded even in that spot if he was given that either. Nonetheless, I don't think he's necessarily ready to play in the NHL consistently this year. I don't think they're going to use him much of the rest of the year. It would not shock me if these are the only 2 games that he gets the rest of this season. If he does get more games, I think that's going to be a bad sign about the rest of the roster in regards to health. What have they done differently in the last 2 games that they can continue to do after the break? The biggest thing is play shitty Pacific Division teams. The Kings are bad and in a bad spot and have not been playing well at all. Maybe Panarin changes that a little bit. We will see. They're not very good. Their best thing is playing defensively, and they weren't even all that good at this. Vancouver is just horrible. Just a terrible team. And if you can get the puck in the offensive zone and get it anywhere near the goal, they're going to just put it in their own net, or you get to do it and you get credit for it. I think that's the biggest difference that I've seen in the last two games. I think these two teams just were terrible. They were on a back-to-back before the Olympics. This was going to be a weird game anyway, so I don't want to read too much into this game anyway. I don't want to look into much of any of it at all and say, well, this can continue or that can continue. It's going to be a completely new game. It's going to be a completely new situation when we come out of it. So I don't really take much out of it other than take your points, be happy about your points, know that a shitty team, if the Golden Knights were actually a bad team, they would have fallen down and blown one of these two games. That didn't happen. That didn't even come close to happening. I know I understand the bar that I set, that where I want this team to be comparatively to when I talk about where we are overall, I'm often talking about, can they win the Stanley Cup? And I'm still not at the point that I feel that way. So that's why I feel like I tend to go a little pessimistic at different times. I still believe they are top 10 probably in the NHL. I believe they are top 1 or 2 in the Pacific. Does that mean they're going to win the Pacific? Not necessarily, because we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side with health, with how the schedule sets up, with how they're going to deal with the compacted schedule of a game every other day for 50 days. That's 2 full months, basically, of game every single other day. And then you go directly into game every other night in the postseason. It ramps up. You also have what's now going to probably be 7 or 8 guys that are going to play significant time in the Olympics. So I don't know. We'll see what ends up coming out of that. I am optimistic that the team is still good. I am optimistic that they are still in a position where they can get the job done to get themselves easily to the playoffs, to potentially win games in the playoffs. I still need to see more to start believing that they're going to be in a position where they can actually win a bunch of games in the playoffs. Do you think Dorofeev will be back next year and then somebody else for who is the sacrificial lamb to sign Dorofeev? I do believe they're going to keep Pavel. There's been some new projections that came out. It's around 8.5 is the latest number that I saw. It's a little different on a short-term deal versus a long-term deal, so we will see. I'm going to write an article about that over the break as well, so we will get to that once we get on the other side or somewhere, I don't know when, somewhere in the middle of the break. I do think they are going to re-sign him. I don't think there has to necessarily be someone that goes. If you look at all of the unrestricted free agents and kind of how the cap's going to go up, I don't think they have to materially change the roster all that much, and that includes signing Anderson. I don't think it's going to have to change all that much. Some of the bottom of the roster is going to have to churn, but not in a big way. Lazan, Sissons, Smith, Saad, a lot of these come off. They could basically all combine together, and then you can figure out other ways. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a big change. Now, that being said, if it doesn't go well the rest of the season, if the postseason doesn't go well, maybe it looks a little bit different do you need to make bigger changes? So I don't know that we're at the point at the moment that we can do that. They're taking down the castle, not the dragon at this point. I think eventually they will take down the dragon, but they are currently taking down the castle. That's what the beeping is. They were turning the thing around, and now they're moving it and going up and down, and it's great. I'm happy that I chose this spot to do this today because nobody loves beeping more than me. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? There's a couple on trades. I'll just do the overall sense of what do I see at the deadline at this point, because we're not that far away from it now. It's only 5 or 6 games, something like that before it. I think center's probably the place that makes the most sense. The problem is I still believe that it's going to be difficult for this team to score consistently in dangerous areas in and around the front of the goal in the postseason. So because of the fact that they've already spent a lot of assets buying, I don't know that you're going to see a hugely impactful deadline. I don't think that they're going to make a splash move. I think it's possible that you see kind of one of these work around the edges type of centers. Wouldn't shock me if they end up finding a winger that they prefer, and then they move, Howden ends up back in the center. If there's a belief Carlson's going to come back, I don't think they're going to target the exact style of player that I believe they need because I don't think they view it the same way I do. I think they have a little bit higher confidence, this being the front office and I would say Cassidy and basically the organization as a whole. I think they have a little bit more confidence in the goal scoring than I do. I don't have names. I'm not big on rumors and trade deadline stuff until we get right up to it. And I don't really necessarily worry all that much about it until we're right on top of it because all of it's kind of speculation that really in a weird way it's like a waste of time. Like I'd rather do like an overall view of like what's the style of player, what's the value that they have to trade, what's the type of players that can go out. I do not expect goalie to change. I know people have said that. I would be very surprised if that ends up happening. um, I just feel like they believe that their three offensive-minded defensemen are going to have a bigger impact in the postseason than I personally believe they're going to have. They might be right. I've been wrong many times before. Time will tell on that. We will see. I also think that they believe they're going to get more out of Marner, Eichel, Stone in the postseason than I'm necessarily sure that they're going to get. We will see. Again, I've been wrong on these. They've been right. I've been right. They've been wrong. We will see what ends up happening in this particular one. Either way, I do believe that it's going to be a bit more quiet because they've already made their big move. So I don't expect there to be a ton, but I would be a bit surprised if nothing happens. I would guess you're going to see like I'm trying to think. Like I think it'll be above the Bluger trade, but below the Barbashev trade, right? I guess that's kind of the level. Like the Mantha one is kind of maybe about what we're looking at, and I would hope it goes better than the Mantha one. But that's where we're at there. Do we honestly believe this team can win 4 rounds even with doing things at the deadline? I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical because I think that the makeup of the team leads to playing from behind. I've seen enough of it thus far this season. We've obviously not seen much of it the last 2 games. I'm not fully on board of saying like it can't happen. Like if you were to ask me, can the San Jose Sharks win the cup? The answer is no. If you were to ask me, can Nashville win the cup? The answer is no. Right? And there's a lot of teams like that. I'm not there with this team. I'm not there with Edmonton. Right? Utah's one. I'd tell you they cannot win the cup. Seattle cannot win the cup. I wouldn't say that about the Golden Knights. That being said, I don't think they're as positioned as well as they have been positioned many times in the past, including obviously the year that they did win the cup. And I do believe they are worse positioned despite having better names on the roster because of the identity of the team in 2017, 2018 when they went to the final. I also think there was something about that team that you cannot always recapture in sports. Very rarely do teams have it. That team had it. I don't believe this team has it. This team does have enough talent, enough of the possibility of the path leading to be great. I think there is a real chance that the path is excellent. It could easily be. Like it is not crazy at all that the path could be San Jose, Anaheim, and then a beat up Minnesota or Dallas. I guess if it could even be Colorado. It's probably going to be one of those 3. But if you could play well in that spot, you're going to have a much better route to them. There is a path. I do see it. Do I think it's likely? I don't. I just don't. If I were to bet on it, I would bet they will not win the cup. But that's like whoop-de-doo, right? Like bet that on every team and you're going to win on all but one. So that's where I'm at on that one. What was the other one? Oh, somebody asked who is the ideal first round opponent? I don't think it's even debatable. It's San Jose. I know that like the like what would it look like if it's San Jose would be kind of scary a little bit in the fact that like if they were to lose that, it would be catastrophic. We'd be talking about completely ripping the roster apart and figuring out where do you have to go from here if you couldn't beat San Jose in a playoff series. But if you look at all of the teams, I don't think it's even debatable. They've lost to San Jose like 3 times ever. And I know some of them playoff games, whatever. This is not that. is a much different team. It's a perfect matchup. They're going to be soft. They're not going to be ready for playoff hockey. This team's hardened and has played tons of playoff hockey. It's obviously the best option. I don't even think it's debatable. Could we have made the same deal for the Kings did to get Panarin? No. They could not have made the same deal as the Kings did to get Panarin because Panarin wouldn't want to come here. Panarin made it awfully clear that he wanted to go to LA. And I know there's been some other reporting out there, and I know there's been some things saying that he was offered this or offered that or all of it. I don't believe a lot of it. I think there were other offers. I don't believe he ever put anything on the table other than saying, I'm going to LA. And that's why I think the deal was so bad. If he had said, I will only go to Vegas, I think Vegas would have him. I believe they would have found a way to make it work. It probably would have been Trevor Connolly, and I think they would have lived with it. I don't know what they would have done the extension or not. Doesn't really make a difference. He didn't want to come here. And that's not necessarily anything against Vegas or anything against Seattle or San Jose or whatever. He said he wanted to go to LA. Guy had a no move clause. He said he wanted to go to LA. Thus, New York gets complete dog shit for him. Congratulations to LA. You have a much better player. I don't think the Kings are all that much better. They're better. They're better. He helps them. He's a type of player that they do not have. He makes them more dangerous. I want to see the Kings less today or whatever. Yeah, today than I did a week ago before they had Artemi Panarin in the playoffs. But I still don't think the Kings are all that difficult of a matchup. I don't think they're all that good. If Panarin makes them better, I don't think he makes them much better. I'm not even convinced they make the playoffs. And that's with Panarin. So that's where we're at on that one. Let's see. I had a couple other ones. Let's see what else is on here. So for the players not going to the Olympics, who will the break help the most? Who will it hurt the most? Who will it help the most? Let's think of who that would be. I would imagine that's probably the defenseman. Maybe Bowman. Maybe I would say Bowman might be highest on that list because he can use the time. I think it's a tight schedule. The travel's way different in the NHL, and he's been up for a while. He's gone through the ringer a little bit. I think maybe he's probably at the top of the list. Obviously, all the hurt players, that would be the one it hurts the most. I don't think it's even debatable. It's Aiden Hill. He finally got himself a good game. He finally looked more in rhythm than he's looked since the injury, and all of a sudden it's gone. So that's disappointing. Go back in the earlier part in the podcast for how likely is the 71 return or Periscope, whatever you want to call these. I kind of went through that. All right, so that I believe is all I have. Let me give you some schedule updates and what's going on here. First off, once I finish this, we're switching the account over. We're putting the American flag next to the SinBin logo. We're putting the new SinBin logo up. We're going full on America. Let's go. It's gold medal time. We don't like Cassidy anymore. We don't like Stone anymore. We don't like Marner anymore. We don't even really like Hurdle anymore. We don't like any of them. We only like Hannafin and Eichel. I love me some Kachucks now. I love me some Dylan Larkin. All of our goalies. I don't know which one they're going to play. I don't know how that's going to work out. I'm very excited for the Olympics. It's going to be great. I know everybody was all kind of nervous about Four Nations last year and what it was going to be. Just dive into this. We don't get to see this. This is the first time our players have ever gone to the Olympics. Enjoy it. Have fun. Talk shit to Canadians. Talk shit to Swedish people. Talk shit to Finnish people. It's time. We're about to win the gold medal. That's what's going to happen, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be amazing, and I cannot wait until Jack gets to rub it back in Bruce Cassidy's face because this is the real gold medal. This is the one we actually want. It's going to be awesome. Going to be so much fun. On that note, we are having a watch party at Giordano's. It's noon on Sunday the 15th. It's the game against Germany. It will hopefully be the opportunity for America to grab the first spot. And we would like to be first in the entire thing so that we get the reseeding benefit. For those of you who don't know how that works, there are 3 groups. There are 4 teams in each group. The top team in the group goes forward through, basically gets a bye all the way through to the round of 8. There is quarterfinals. There are 8 teams. The best second place team also gets that bye. I'm not interested in that. All the other teams, so everyone goes through to the round of 12. It's kind of round of 16 where they then play. But there's reseeding after into the semis. So what that means is that it's set up for who you're going to play 5 through 8, they go, 8 goes to 1, right? That's how that works. Or however, doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. We're going to play a bad team. We should figure that out. Not all that worried. But if you finish first, if you get to the semis and a team that is further down finds a way to sneak through, you get that team if you are first. So we want tons of goals. We want all the wins. We want all of the tiebreakers. Find a way to get first so that we get in that position. Also, it would be nice to not have to deal with Canada before the gold medal game. That's that. Again, watching that game at Giordano's, we're going to figure out what else we're going to do further we go along. We're going to do a podcast, I believe, on Tuesday. I'm going to try to do a subtext question and answer sometime over this break as well. Articles every single day outside of Sundays. That's how we always do it. We're going to keep going with that. If you do have articles, things like I'm more willing to do longer form research during the breaks. I don't say this enough. I would like that sometimes people have things and it's like, what about this? What do you think about, like one time I was like, how good are they in the gold jersey? And it took me forever, but we now have it. We have all of the records of every game they've ever played in every single jersey, and they're on the site. So if there's something like that you've been thinking of, except afternoon games, I'm not doing that one because it's ridiculously hard to find correct schedules of when the games were played through the COVID break and through like early. I'm not doing that one. Plus, I don't even know that it necessarily makes a difference. So don't ask me that one. But if you have other ones, let me know. Either way, we're going to have new stories every single day, so keep an eye on that. The Twitter is switching over to America, but of course, it's always going to be a Golden Knights page. It's never going to not be a Golden Knights page. I plan on doing this for 40 more years, so get used to it. So that's not going to change, so we'll keep doing that. I think that's it. If anybody else has any other questions, go ahead and send them in via Twitter or Discord or wherever. I guess we can open up the Discord. If you want to get in the Discord, send me a message. We'll get you in the Discord. It's going to be fun during the Olympics. That'll be it. Thanks again to the Jimmerson Law Firm sponsoring all Periscopes this season. And maybe, I don't know. I was thinking about doing them after some of the American games. I don't know. We'll think about it. Maybe after a gold medal. If we win the gold medal, I'll probably have to hop on here and talk some shit. So that's all. Good night. See ya.